generals, there were front men, there were the musicians, there was a band. There were all kinds of giftings amongst them, but they were dry because nobody will use their gift to bless another. Nobody will use their connections to save or to defend another. Nobody was reaching out to the other. And God said, you know what? There is too much disconnection. Because if I do for you, I have to do for them. So this is what I'm going to do. All of you come together, and I'm going to do for all of you together. So he said, I prophesied as I was commanded, and there was a noise, and behold, and there was a shaking. A shaking. That means that the weaker links were removed. Those that are just stubborn, that can just not stand the truth, they are weak. God said, I had to take out the weaker. Some of the bones, they were so dry. They were just ready to break and fall off. And God said, you know, some of the bones don't deserve to be there. So he didn't just bring the bones together. He shook it first. And he said, let the weak ones fall out. Let those that will become problematic bones, let them fall out. Because what I'm about to do, I don't need any disconnection among my people. You got to understand, whenever the Spirit of the Lord is coming, your anger towards another person can grieve the Spirit. He's pure, he's holy. He doesn't like those things. Bible says that God, he's not an author of confusion. And most of us, our emotions, the way we feel about one another, grieves the Spirit. And you are asking God for things for yourself. And the Lord is saying, what about your brother that asked you for help and you had the ability to help them and you failed? But you asked me for things? You won't even say hi because they look some way. But you want things from God. God don't give people things individually. He gives them through the body. Tell your neighbor, be a part of the body. Verse 8. And when I beheld, lo, after the shaking, bones came together, bone to bone. The sinews and the flesh came upon them. I'm going to be teaching on Wednesday about muscles and all that. All of that is necessary in the body. And you got to understand that before you can build muscle, there has to be tension and opposition. Or you can't build no muscle. There has to be resistance. That's how you build muscle. If you don't pick up and deal with the resistance, you can't build no muscle. And every time you feel a little opposition, you begin to whine and complain. I can't stand her. I can't stand him. He did that to me. Who are you in the first place? Bible says a servant is not greater than the master. Jesus, who never sinned, those things and worse were done to him. And Bible says he endured a contradiction. He endured it. He refused to entangle himself with hatred. He refused to entangle himself with pain and bitterness and grief. Why? Because of the joy that was set before him. He said, you know what? If I entangle myself right now, I'm only going to waste time in getting to my joy. Let me disentangle so I can get to my joy faster. Most of us are looking for joy in the Lord. But what have you done to give another person joy? Looking for forgiveness. When was the last time you forgave? And you got to understand, all these things is dominion. Your ability to forgive means that you have dominion over that person. That means that, you know what, when it comes to me and God, it doesn't matter what you do. My stance for God don't change. You can speak to me anyhow you want, but if God says I should love you, I will still love you. That's That's what it means to have dominion. And we confuse all these things. And I command this and that. You can't command nothing if you ain't got dominion. Put on the screen Isaiah chapter 58. Let's read from verse 1. He said, cry aloud. This one is also, he's also admonishing the preacher, the prophet. He said, tell them, cry aloud. Don't say it silently, don't say it quietly. Say it with boldness. Lift up thy voice like a trumpet when you are saying it. So God wants to make sure everybody hears it. Because he can't hold nothing against you unless you've heard it. So he gave everybody an opportunity to hear him. And he said, show my people their what? And the house of Jacob their sins. Verse 2. Yet they seek me daily. You come to seek me, and you've got so much transgressing and sin. And see how we seek, and delight to know my ways. I want to see you, Lord. But what are you talking about? You really want to see me? You want to know my ways? Obey me, do my will. He that is faithful in little is what? How can I trust you that you will be faithful when I entrust you with power and wealth? When you have little and you won't even show appreciation for it by doing my will with it. You don't acknowledge that I gave you little. That's why you have a problem and an issue doing the things that I desire you to do with that little. But I'm not going to entrust you with much unless I see you do my will with little. He said, you seek me as a nation that did righteousness. He said, you're praying and commanding the elements as if you are righteous. And forsook not you forsaking my ordinances, and you pray and you cry out and you command devils and you're saying all kinds of things as if you obey my ordinances. In other words, those things are reserved for those that have my ordinances in their hearts. And forsook not the ordinances of their God. They ask me the ordinances of what? Justice. And you know why? Because we are always in trouble. We're always saying, well, this is not fair. That is not fair. So the thing that we want from God is justice for your situation. How about God's justice? So when we ask God for anything, we don't ask him for ordinances to do his will. We want ordinances for justice. So people come to church and they come and ask you, Pastor, I'm going through this situation and that situation and that situation. What do I do? How about you come and ask me, how do I do God's will? How do I get closer to God? How do I get God to love me? Why is it always got to be the issues? That you and only you, not even 3 or 4 people, is you that's dealing with the issues. I'm dealing with this. I'm going. How about what the church wants? When was the last time that you pray and ask for the hand of the Lord to come in the midst of the church? Not for you, but for everybody else. Seek ye first the kingdom of God. He said they take delight in approaching to God. Verse 3. Wherefore have we fasted, say they, and thou seest not. God, we have even fasted, and I still ain't got no answered prayers. Wherefore have we afflicted our soul, and thou takest no knowledge. Behold, in the day of your fast, ye find what? Pleasure, and exact all your labors. Behold, ye fast for strife, so that you can be right and somebody can be wrong. And what? Debate, and to smite with the fist of wickedness. Ye shall not fast as ye do this day, to make your voice to be heard on high. Is it such a fast that I have chosen a day for a man to afflict it? So just one day, you think you can dedicate a period of 3 days, 21 days, and do a few things, get everything right, not be angry at anybody? As a matter of fact, you were angry at somebody and you said, after the fast, I'm going to deal with it. You're holding on these things and you think your fast is going to work? No! Is it to bow down his head as a bulrush and to spread sackcloth and ashes? And I mean, would thou call this a fast and an acceptable day? You think this is what I want? Next verse, please. He said, it's not this the fast that I have chosen, to loose the bands of wickedness, to undo the heavy burdens, and to let the oppressed go free, and that he break every yoke, the thing that is pulling you along, pulling you away from me. Break that yoke. Tell your neighbor, break that yoke. Verse 7. Is it not to deal thy bread to the hungry, and that thou bring the poor that are cast out to thy house? When thou seest the naked, that thou cover him, and that thou hide not thyself from thy own flesh. Verse 8. Then only then shall what? Your light break forth as a morning, and thy health shall spring forth speedily. A lot of us are sick because we don't love. We don't love and we take communion. You're angry and you're hating somebody and you're taking communion. You are sealing your condemnation. Because the communion is a covenant. It's a covenant between you and I, that I am a partaker of that body that you partake of. And if I'm a partaker of that body, it means that if I'm sick, now when any part of your body is hurt, it puts the whole of you under duress. How come a common cold or a flu can disorient you so bad? How come just a twist of a finger can give you a headache, and then you're feeling this, and then you twisted your finger, now you have a headache, now you have a fever? How? And God said, look at this person. You're trying to get somewhere. You are the hand. You need to go pick some money up from there. He's the leg. And you will not agree with the leg. It means you're going to have to crawl like a snake to go get it. But if you connect to the leg will carry you where you're going. Tell your neighbor, love me. Love me. Tell them with an attitude. Tell them, love me. Love me. We're going back to the early church. We've come. You got to understand. Listen. It's sad. It dawned on me that most Christians won't go to heaven. No, not most Christians, most believers. Christians will go to heaven, but most believers won't go to heaven. Bible says even the demons, they believe and they tremble. Does that mean they will make it to heaven? No. Even them, in reference to believers who claim to be Christians, yet they act like unbelievers. Jesus said in the book of Revelations that in order for you, I preached it last week, in order for you to get to where I am, you have to overcome like I overcame. It's the Bible that said it. So don't you think that you can do whatever you want, not live and exemplify Jesus, and still think that you haven't made no investment in heaven. As a matter of fact, you owe heaven because you've been giving so much grace. It's like a grant. And Bible says to whom much is given, much is expected. God showed you mercy and you ain't showing no mercy. You owe God some mercy. You got to understand, all these things are investments. God gave you mercy. it becomes like a loan, a grant, so that you can go back and fix issues. You can so you don't die because of that sin. And the Lord is saying what? I've shown you mercy. Now you go. So the Bible gives us so many examples. A master forgave a servant, and that servant went and took somebody else that owed him some money and put that person. And the master said, my goodness, I just forgave you. I just let your sin go. And this is what you're going to do to another person. It is time for you to be cast into jail. And most of us are in jail in the realms of the spirit by reason of our attitude towards another person. How can you cry to God when you're going through stuff? Father, I need you. I need you. So now I'm not even going to go there. You need God? Huh? You really need him? How many of us need God? Then shall thy light break forth as the morning, and thy hell shall spring forth speedily, and thy righteousness shall go before thee. Then the other versions say, the glory of the Lord shall be your rear guard. You know what it means? I never have to look over my shoulders. I ain't afraid of nobody. Because the devil can't stand his glory. He can't even look your direction. He can't tell where you are because he can't see you. He has to look through the glory to see you. And that light, he can't stand it. Do you know what it means for the glory of God to be your rear guard? Now ask yourself, is the glory of God really my rear guard? If it is, why am I afraid? Why am I anxious? Why am I always looking over my shoulders? If the glory of God is my rear guard.